What's up, Patreon family? It's me. Welcome back. Welcome back. Today, I will be doing another celebrity natal chart reading, this time on Meg the Stallion. And this is going to be more of a revisited, if you will, because I have done a natal chart reading on her in the past on my main channel. However, this is more so going to be within the scope of the most recent events that have taken place, which of course is what everybody is talking about at the moment. The highly publicized trial between Tory Lanez, and then Kelsey, her ex-best friend. I think that's her name, Kelsey. And to be a little bit more specific, it's actually a legal proceeding between the state of California and Tory. He is on trial for, I think, discharging a weapon. I can't remember the exact name of the charges, but they have transpired, or those are charges that eventually transpire from Meg the Stallion getting shot on that fateful night in 2020 when everybody saw her and Tory Lanez not arrested. Tory and her friend Kelsey, her former friend Kelsey, who was in the car, were arrested. She was taken to the hospital because she had bullet fragments in her feet. So a weapon went off, right? It discharged. She had the bullet fragments in her feet, and then later said that she was shot by Tory Lanez. And of course, some people found there to be holes in her story. Yada yada. Long story short, you got half of the population that believes Meg, that wants justice for Meg, and feels like Tory ass should be locked away because he's the one who did it. And then you got the other half who feels like Tory should get off and that Meg actually lied. There is some gray area as to whether or not Kelsey was the one who shot her. And as the trial goes on, it gets messier and more confusing. Certain witnesses that were supposed to testify on, I think, her former bodyguard, he's nowhere to be found. People don't know where the driver is. Tory had a driver who, aside from Megan, him, and Kelsey, was the other person that was in the car when these events transpired. He's gone. So now we're just, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion, including myself. And I'm gonna tell y'all now, I'm gonna keep it a beam with you. My opinion is not what I feel the more popular one is. But I'm gonna do my best to be neutral, you know what I'm saying, and objective. Because I do want to look at Meg's natal chart just to see what kind of parallels we can draw, between her chart, the incident itself, her chart, and then maybe even the plausible outcome of this court proceeding. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So Meg the Stallion was born on February 15th, 1995 at 11 a.m. in San Antonio, Texas, okay? And one of the first things that stood out to me was the fact that she is a Scorpio North Node. And I think I've touched on this in other videos that I've made or other instances, but when we talk about having Scorpio on the North Node, this could also even be applicable to those with, I've noticed Scorpio Sun, maybe even Venus placements. Maybe you can even throw the moon in there to a certain extent, but absolutely Scorpio North Nodes. These are highly polarizing people, okay? So even when you think about just Meg, her career, the trajectory that her career has taken, I think this court case is the personification or the culmination of a lot of the polarizing energy that she harbors. But you have people who, as I described, absolutely love her, who worship her. And to a certain extent, that Scorpio energy can have some kind of reminiscent effects of a cult following, which is very interesting because Rabina, shout outs to Rabina, really great astrologer, would always refer to Scorpio's sister sign, which is Taurus, as being the sign of the cult, right? Taurus ruling cults. Not to mention her also being a Taurus South Node and ascendant, but her having that Scorpio North Node energy in many respects could deal with that, the really, really dark nature of that cult fanatic following, right? Where people are like obsessed with you, especially with her also having Pluto in the 7th house of Sagittarius. Pluto and Sag, I noticed as a generation, a lot of like that Pluto Sag generation, which would loosely be translated into like Gen Z, has a tendency to participate in stan culture. And Sagittarius, as an archetype, can deal with like God or godliness, right? Worship. So Pluto and Sagittarius can create the perfect storm for a lot of people within this generation to be so engulfed and obsessed with not only just like their favorite celebrities, but also like their own beliefs and views on morality. And this is where you get a lot of like self-righteous kind of like collective popular opinions, but in a certain way they can also be very hypocritical. Everybody from the Pluto Sagittarius generation feels like they are right, but that's a different story for a different day. My point is, with Meg being a part of that Pluto Sag generation, having Pluto in the 7th house like that, and then Scorpio on the North Node, I could totally see her having like a cult following of, what they call themselves, the horsies, the hotties, you know what I'm saying? Where if people are just like, they love her. She's larger than life. And technically, just being objective, part of that Scorpio North Node is to be somebody who has a lot of influence, right? Somebody who has a lot of prestige and notoriety. So if you ask me, check mark, like mission fulfilled, right? But the other side of that is hatred and people who just don't like you. And it just is what it is. Scorpio deals with things, people, places, and things that like threaten you. So with that Scorpio North Node being in her 6th house, a lot of people are, will they be easily threatened, especially with her Mars being at that 21st degree of Leo, opposing her Sun in that 10th house of Aquarius. A lot of it is around men. If you notice, some of the people who really just like hate her the most are either men or like very male identified women. Not to say that there are not fair and balanced critiques of Meg, which I will get to, that has nothing to do with the misogyny and misogynoir that she receives, because two things can be true at once, but just being honest, that's a part of it. She's a big threat. Getting into that Sun Mars opposition, I always talk about how Sun Mars women are they're in a peculiar position because they can be very threatening to men. These are people who can be very intimidating, and with her having her Sun in Aquarius, like I said, that Sun opposing her Mars in Leo, that could deal with where she could have a way about herself, even when it comes to her love life, her romantic life, dating life, that could be seen as intimidating, in the sense that these are women who act like men themselves, hypersexual, especially with that Leo moon as well, in her 5th house at that. So she could be hypersexual, which is very interesting because her sex life does play like a big role in the case, unfortunately. However, I do feel like it kind of applies. Like, I don't believe in slut shaming, but the whole alternative theory that she slept with Tori behind her friend's back, which is actually very plausible. When we talk about dark-sided Aquarius does real friendships. Her being that Aquarius Sun, I could definitely see her being somebody who, especially when we talk about that between that opposition with Mars, where she could be somebody who competes with her friends for men. You know what I mean? So like, and that's just what it is. And dark side Aquarius can actually be very phony. On the higher octave, these are people who can be all about their friendship groups. They can be very friendly people, very bubbly people. With her Sun in her 10th house, she's definitely going to make a lot of her brand center around this. But with that opposition between Mars and her 4th house of Leo behind closed doors, she could be a bitch on wheels. You know what I'm saying? Or, like I said, there could be a lot of drama within her friendship group. She could find herself on the ops, with friends and situations dealing with men Even when we talk about how Sun, Mars women get down, that opposition between her Sun and that Mars and Leo could deal with her being, once again, very sexual, promiscuous, and in a way that where she's very forward. She might even act like the nigga in the situations. And I heard that, she was the type to, like, even when it came to allegedly the baby and other niggas, like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck you, but I'm finna get up out the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think people are not, despite the fact that a lot of female rappers, a certain brand of female rappers might rap about these things, people get so up in arms and so offended when they find out, that there are women who actually live a life like this. Once again, I don't see the issue with it. But backdooring your friend that's some nasty work. Does it justify being shot though? No, it doesn't. But I can understand the friend who got snaked not fucking with her like that. And it just is what it is. Like, let's be real. But taking it back to her chart, that Sun in opposition to Mars could all, because Mars also deals with guns, weapons. So once again, a lot of Sun, Mars women could find themselves in situations where men are competing with them. And where men may want to one-up them or assert dominance over them. Especially because these are women who could be very bold. They could be one of the guys themselves, or like I said, have that type of temperament. She may have that ego about herself and talk a lot of shit with that Moon Mars conjunction in Leo, right? Opposing her Sun. So, and with Aries in the 12th house, she could be somebody that, especially when she gets drunk or inebriated, a lot of these more out of control qualities about herself are unlocked. And that also could even reflect that night, where her getting shot, where she was really drunk, where the people involved, where all of them were really drunk that night, where her having Aries in the 12th house. So the conditions that led up to her initially, her getting shot. And the 12th house also rules the feet. So Aries in the 12th house, that's a gunshot wound to the foot. All right. So that makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. Now, but something else I wanted to point out, though, and I mentioned this before, with her having that Saturn in the 11th house of Pisces, this deals with where, she could have a lot of karma tied to her ability to tell the truth and be honest. And Meg does have Saturn squaring her Jupiter in that 8th house of Sagittarius, which means essentially she could be a person who has a really difficult time telling the truth. And that could also lead to like scandals, especially like on social media with friends and stuff like that, involving friends. And, anytime she is not really operating from a mode of truthfulness, it comes back to bite her in the ass, and very quickly. Not to mention Saturn in Pisces could also manifest in injuries and problems with the foot or, to your feet. She also has a Taurus South Node in her 12th house, which reinforces this concept of a person who can have a lot of past life karma rooted in, once again, just like dishonesty. And like I said, I'm trying my best to be objective here. I do feel like, she could be in a situation where, she's somebody who attracts a lot of threats and violence from men, but she could also be just as threatening, just as violent, especially with that Leo Moon Mars conjunction opposing her Sun in the 4th house. It's just not something that people who probably don't know her like that would see. Once again, doesn't justify her getting shot. I'm just saying, like, the energy just kind of, it could go either way, right? And if we're just being honest as well about this 12th house South Node in Taurus deals with evidence. It deals with things that can be seen, but with it being placed in the 12th house, these are people who have the tendency to hide things. This can also deal with, hidden or evidence or things that are being concealed. She also has Libra in the 5th house too, in the 6th, and with her Venus in that 9th house of Capricorn. I believe it is, yeah. And forming a semi-square to her Sun too in that 10th house. She could be somebody who I feel like she's backed and supported by a lot of brands, like a very large brand. I know she signed to Rock Nation management. So where there could be a lot riding. And actually, the concealment of information, of evidence, of, certain, hardcore evidence that could be needed for the case, there could be a lot of conspiracy or a lot of things going on the back end that her label, her management group could have something to do with. And that's just being real. That's just being oh so real. I'm not even going to hold y'all. Now, whatever y'all want to take from that, y'all could take from that. Not saying that the lady wasn't shot. Not saying the lady was not injured. Not saying whoever did it shouldn't be held accountable. I'm just saying more than one thing could be true at one time. Okay, just like how we found out she was lying about her relationship with Tory Lanez. Is it, does it mean that she has to get shot or she should have been shot? No. But once again, like, more than one thing could be true. And it eventually did come back to bite her in the ass because it was used against her in the court of law. As Black women, of course, we're already not believed or taken at face value. But when you do additional things, additional clownery to add to that, it makes it easy for people to feel justified in writing you off. And unfortunately, that was one of those Saturn Pisces lessons that she had to learn. Okay? Where, you not being honest, a lot of times is going to bite you in the butt. Let a nigga bite your butt, let a nigga bite your butt. Y'all remember? I feel like I got that from somewhere. But, anywho. She also has Sun square Pluto. That's another aspect that could make a person very easily hated. And with her sun being in that 10th house of Aquarius, this could play out through social media, of course. So that could be like the hate campaign that she got on social media or that she gets very often. And she also spoke about how, like, hip hop is a boys club. A lot of men don't like her. They're against her and all this other stuff. And once again, it's just another manifestation of her 10th house Aquarius sun and that Mars in the 4th house of Leo opposition. Where just naturally, you're in a entertainment business or you're in a career field where it just puts you on the outs with a lot of men because she exudes a lot of that same energy that men have. And we already know men don't like that. They don't really take too kindly to that. But just as a person, I'm gonna be real, like I said, outside of her getting justice for being shot, because nobody should be shot, but just all things aside from that, Mama's is giving me shitty friend vibes, like shitty. I wouldn't really want to be her friend. And that's what I'm saying. It's like either or, because you got people who feel like it's like on both sides, people have the inability to acknowledge that there are multiple things that could be true at once about a person. So either people are committed to hating her, and then a lot of times they'll use a lot of the misogynoir, like, her sex life to attack her. But then you also have the people who, she deserves justice for being shot. But you got people who say, like, therefore, what I'm saying? Everybody who goes against her is an op and a villain and, fuck Kelsey. And it's just weird. It's weird. Everybody weird. Shut the fuck up. But, yeah. So I just wanted to make some of those observations really quick. Let me see if there's anything else that matters that's applicable. Even when we talk about, the outcome of the trial. Now, here's the reason why I feel like it could go in her favor. And even if Tory is dismissed or whatever the case may be, I still see Meg doing really good, maybe even in her career, because she does have her Venus in that 9th house of Capricorn forming a sextile to Saturn in her 11th house, which can deal with, once again, especially with Libra in the 5th and 6th, with her receiving a lot of help, like I said, from behind the scenes. It could also deal with like where she could just get like a lucky break in court. I could definitely see that. And it just kind of reinforces her career and things like that, being funded, backed and supported by people who, got a lot of power, got a lot of money, got a lot of prestige. Taurus also is a sign that deals with favoritism. So that could be another thing that comes about from that Taurus South Node, like her being in a position, especially once again with Venus in Capricorn, she's like an industry favorite, an industry darling. So people who got a lot of things invested in her are invested in her, her ability to win and, being able to have like a very fruitful career and stuff like that. But yeah, so there's that. But, I think she's somebody, like I said, on the friendship level. She just does, she's one of those people who's built and designed to have, like a lot of success. I know there's a lot of people who do have a lot of their planets in that northern hemisphere here tend to live very public lives. So these are people who are kind of just built for that. But once again, with that opposition between her Mars and her moon in Leo in the 4th and 5th houses, it could create a personal life that is fucking crazy. Like I said, even when it comes to her friends, family, these oppositions can make her very hard to deal with. It can make her an instigator, where she wants to be in control and boss her friends around. That could even be her approach with men too. And like I said, a lot of times men are very threatened by that type of activity and behavior. That semi-square between her Aquarius sun in the 10th house and that Venus in the 9th house of Capricorn could do it where she could also be kind of phony with friends. You know what I'm saying? She only want to deal with you if it's a good look. You know what I'm saying? Even with that Venus in Capricorn, that's very like transactional relationships with people. So it's like, if you're dealing with her, you just kind of got to know who you're dealing with and move accordingly. That would be my advice to, I don't know, anybody who know her, I guess, especially if you're subscribed to my Patreon. But my point is here, I can see the trial going in her favor, even if he's let off. Tori is, like I said, I think that the trajectory of her career moving forward is going to be pretty solidified, just to keep it a beam with you guys. But that level of polarity that she has, I think that will always exist as long as she stays in good standing with the people making the money, and the big wigs and the corporates, and the people in the industry. She'll be all right. And I do see her kind of just being somebody who's naturally blessed when it comes to that, like people giving her stuff and doing things for her, which is another upside of that Aquarius sun too, receiving favors from people and that kind of thing. But yeah, so I think I'm going to do another video and in that video I'll cover the synastry between Meg and Chelsea, or Kelsey, whatever her name is. I'll go ahead, I think I'll make that public. I'll post that to like my public page. But anywho, I hope y'all enjoyed. I just wanted to do like a, quick little 1-2-1-2. Let me know what y'all think about this whole situation in the comment section. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye.